Let's talk with Dr. Ed James. He, of course, is a recovering food addict, struggled with obesity and prediabetes, got a radio show called Funerals and Fried Chicken, and he's here to help us to rethink our diet, especially as a black community and culture. Soul food is good for us, but soul food is killing us. There's a movie out, actually, right? Right now, Brother's got a movie out called Soul Food Junkies, which talks about this addiction that we have to the fat, the fried, and the greasy, and therefore that is killing many of us with all the bad things, diabetes, stroke, and all of the other things. All right, let's talk about what you did. You mentioned this book, The China Study. What did the China Study tell you?
The China study basically shows that in this particular part of the country and areas of China, that people eat a lot more fruits and vegetables and whole grains than we do in this country. And they eat a lot less fried food, red meat, chicken, and so forth. And therefore, those people, their rates of all the diseases that kill Americans are much lower than they are here. And I'm talking about heart attacks, strokes, diabetes, the cancers that we've already mentioned. The rates of all those diseases are much, much lower than they are in this country. The average cholesterol of the Chinese that were looked at in this study was 137. And that's compared to up in the 200 range for Americans and Americans are on, more than 30 million Americans are on cholesterol-lowering drugs. These Chinese were not on medication for their cholesterol. And I'm here to tell you as an example that my cholesterol used to be up in the 170, 180 range, which most people would say, oh, that's not bad. But I'll tell you right now, I've been able to get it down to 129. And by getting our cholesterol down under 150, my chance of a heart attack is virtually zero. Most people would say, a heart attack? Well, yeah, how could you have a 0% chance of a heart attack? Well, I'm telling you, that's what my chance of a heart attack is. And just about any of you listening today can also have a 0% chance of a heart attack just by adopting this kind of diet. And if you don't, by the way, if you continue to eat and live like most Americans, in particular most African Americans, you have a 1 in 3 chance of dying of a heart attack.
So the China study basically says what we all heard over the years: less consumption of red meats, more concentration on plant-based diet, whole grains, and leafy greens. That's basically what you just said.
That's exactly right, but not in moderation. We hear so much about moderation. This is not about moderation. Like I said before, we have a crisis, and this cannot be moderation. I'm talking about a lot more of the things you mentioned, the plant-based whole foods, and a whole lot less of the red meat and fried foods. It's got to be a dramatic change, not just a little change now and then.
All right. So let's talk about this. So then. This is because is it because of our genetic makeup? I mean, you're not an MD and you're not you are an MD, but not in, certainly not in cardiology, but you do have a certificate in plant-based nutrition from Cornell. So, people are saying, well, what's your qualification to talk about it? Your own personal experience, your own testimony. People want to know tell me what you specifically did to get yourself into the shape you're in.
I made dramatic changes in the food that I eat on a daily basis.
So you went from eating this to that. What was that?
I used to eat a lot. I used to eat a lot of chicken.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it was fried. Sometimes it's baked.
Right.
Now I don't eat much. I rarely eat chicken now. I used to eat a fair amount of red meat. I never eat red meat anymore. I used to eat very little fish. Now I eat fish probably once or maybe twice a week. But the biggest difference is that in addition to how much less animal food I eat now, I eat a lot more plant-based food. Every single day I try to eat a salad. Sometimes I'll eat a couple of salads. And when I say salad, I mean I'm not talking about just some romaine lettuce. I mean a nice big meal type of salad, including maybe some spinach, maybe some different types of fruits and vegetables mixed in with it, and some non-fat salad dressing. no cheese, that's my salad. And I usually try to make at least one meal out of that every day. That's probably the biggest difference, just loading up on those leafy green vegetables. By the way, leafy green vegetables are the most nutrient-dense food on the entire planet.
We're talking about,
they have the most nutrients per calorie of any food you can buy anywhere.
Are we talking about, one of the things that black folks consume a lot of is collard greens, but it's the way we prepare them that gets us into trouble, doesn't it?
That's an excellent point. If you're mixing your collard greens, as many of us do, with ham hocks or with some other type of high-fat animal-type food, then you're basically, from a nutrition standpoint, you're ruining those collard greens.
Well, it's funny you should say that because we're coming up on a pretty big holiday, right? We're coming up where the center of attraction is a 18 to 22-pound bird with some greens flavored with some smoked turkey or some ham hocks, or in our house it's without meat at all, and there will be some macaroni and cheese, and there will be some candied yams. So what is the alternative to that? Talk to me.
Well, yeah.
Come on now, Ed. You got Dr. Ed James. You got to give me something here. Because there's a big bird getting ready to get slaughtered for Thanksgiving, and you're telling folk that may not be the answer. So what did you have? Let me ask you a different question. What did you have on your last Thanksgiving? Let me hear that.
Well, honestly, I can't remember what I had last week, but I will say this. This is what I anticipate how I will deal with Thanksgiving. Will I have any turkey? Yes, I will have some turkey. But it's not going to be the kind of turkey what I used to eat. When I used to have Thanksgiving, I used to fill up my plate. I used to have enough turkey probably for 3 people. I used to have enough macaroni and cheese probably for several people. I used to have, and I used to go back again and again and again. For repeat servings. Now the difference is that, yes, I will have some turkey, but it's going to be a small serving, a reasonable serving. And the center of my plate, what I will eat the most of, is going to be my salad. That is going to be the biggest part of my meal. So if we can make the fatty, the animal-based food kind of on the side dish, that's where we want to be, and make the center of our meal the salad. We want to fill up on our salad to the point where we don't have that feeling like we need to eat so much bird. So that's the difference in the way I approach. As far as the macaroni and cheese, I don't even touch it anymore. I just don't need it.
You were doing real good until you said that.
Well, here's why I'm able to say that. Because and I mentioned this earlier, but I think you really have to experience it, to understand it fully. Over a period of a few weeks, when you start to eat as I eat and live as I live, including regular exercise, your taste buds will adjust. And when you see that macaroni and cheese, you will not crave it anymore. When I was food addicted, absolutely, I could not leave a meal without eating some of that macaroni and cheese. But now, when I see it, what do I think? Boy, that looks fatty, and it looks kind of disgusting and greasy. That's what goes through my mind now when I see macaroni and cheese or fried chicken. But it took a few weeks to get to that point. So it's just like any other kind of addiction. If I'm a drug addict, heroin looks awfully good to me. Right. But once I've been off of heroin, then I don't need to go back. That's the way I feel now. Is I was really food addicted, but now I don't have that kind of crazy cravings
but
anymore.
you don't feel like you're depriving yourself?
Absolutely not. I feel free, and that's the name of my company is Heal to Be Free.
Yeah.
I feel like I have a freedom now because someone can bring a bucket of fried chicken into my house or some macaroni and cheese, put it right in the middle of my kitchen, and I will say no thank you, and I won't feel like I'm missing anything. I'll feel like I have a freedom, like I've been delivered from that addiction.
So this idea, so basically your idea for us is to do this. If it's fatty, salty, sugary, or processed, stop it. Just stop it. because the very things that you talk about, this is what our body craves. And when we do that, we're basically setting ourselves up for an early grave. So you started to do this. When did you start to feel good about, we're talking with Dr. Ed James, recovering food addict, on ways that you can do the same thing? So for people who are obese or where they are, or who can't seem to say no to a donut or a corn muffin or a piece of chocolate cake or some German chocolate cake or some banana cake or some pumpkin pie or some sweet potato pie, what about that?
Well, the thing is, and these foods that you're mentioning, in addition to the butter and the fat and the salt and so forth that's in these foods, and the sugar. There's also usually a lot of artificial additives and preservatives, which also add to these kind of food cravings and food addictions, and that doesn't help matters either. But my advice would be take a look at my website, dredjames.com, www.dredjames.com. Go to the resource page. Take a look at some of those books and films that are available, other websites, and start to engage yourself in these articles and this concept that there's a better way to live our lives. And if you buy into this, like I bought into it, over a period of a few weeks, you will begin to experience a freedom from being addicted to these kind of foods, which have a grip over our culture, over our society, and are killing our people.
In fact, you have some recipes on here that Dr. Oz, you fat-free and vegan. So you're not necessarily a vegan. So you do eat meat if you choose to.
I can't remember the last time I had red meat. Because I feel that that's the worst possible meat to eat.
So
in terms of chicken, I will say occasionally, about once or twice a month, I may have a little chicken, and it will be grilled chicken. It will never be fried chicken.
Never.
And I will have fish, probably maybe once a week or so. But most of what I eat is going to be the fruits and vegetables, because those are what's going to are the most healing to my body, and they're not going to contribute to me to my suffering and death at a young age.
Dr. Ed, but what about when you first started to see the difference? Was it 1 day, 2 days? Because for most people, yeah, they can do this for a week, but now when you're talking about a permanent lifestyle change, when did the switch go off that you could actually do this? Because I think that's the real question for people, especially as someone like yourself who is a recovering food addict, who knows what it's like to want and crave something and decide that you have to make a decision not to have something, which doesn't make you feel deprived. So what was it that you saw in what you did that made a difference? And by the way, Dr. Ed James' website is edjames.com, dredjames.com, dredjames.com, and he has some of he recommends some of these things. But when did it click for you? The question was, back to the question, when did it click for you that you could actually do this even after you struggled through this?
I think it was a matter of a few weeks when I started to feel better. I think that...
But you were struggling. I want people to get that it just didn't happen. You still wanted all those things that you said you don't have a craving for now. When did you say, okay, I can finally say no to the ice cream? When did you say I could say no to that piece of sweet potato pie? When did you say that?
I would say it was probably about a month before I reached that point where I could say no to those things. And I want to make a point. I'm not perfect. I still consider myself a food addict, and every once in a while I still get a food craving. So sometimes I may see a cookie and I'll just grab a cookie or something, but it's not that often, and it doesn't happen like it used to, when it used to be every day. Instead of eating one piece of pizza, I used to eat the pie, so my food cravings are few and far between compared to what they used to be. But I would say it took about a month, and I think exercise is so important. And exercise doesn't mean joining a gym and paying hundreds of dollars a month. It could mean just walking for 30 minutes a day. Park a little farther from where you work. But if you walk for 30 minutes a day, that has a big difference,
So
a huge impact on your food cravings, on the types of foods that you're likely to eat. All of us need to get up off the couch and get moving to the point where we're doing some kind of walking, jogging, running, anything other than sitting on a couch watching television.
In fact, the exercises you talk about, are these things you did, elliptical, free weights, spin classes, yoga, are these things you did?
Tennis? Those are all things I've done and helped me tremendously.
And what do you do now? What is the most consistent thing you do now?
Right now, I do a lot of biking.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the weather's turning, so it's going to be a little tougher. But I've been doing a lot of biking. Today, I did elliptical at the gym, and I did some free weights, some weightlifting. So those are some of my favorites. I like yoga because it involves stretching. Mm-hmm. And stretching is something that most of us don't do enough of. As we get older, if we don't stretch, we end up getting all kinds of muscle tears and aches and pains and back pains and stuff. And I find that yoga is really helpful. It makes me stretch. I also think it's important for us to take quiet time every day. And for me, that involves yoga. I'm a Christian. I pray. And I use my yoga as an opportunity to pray. But I think to have some kind of private spiritual time is important in everyone's day, to take at least 2 or 3 or 5 minutes of quiet time every day. And that's been shown to have tremendous a positive impact in terms of our health.
Dr. Ed James is our guest. And Dr. Ed, what do you recommend for